So this will be our attempt to erase the weekend, or try to erase all the guilt from the weekend. If only the yoga poses could actually do that. So just a twist sequence in general. So here we go. You just need one block. Start lying down on your backs, both of you. Your head's going to hang off the edge, dear. All right, so start just in Shavasana, eyes closed, and breathe in and out through your nose. And for a few moments, just get still. Find a steadiness and evenness in your breath. And then always taking care of yourself. So if you've got a lot of energy and a lot of weekend to work through, then you do everything. You take breaks where you need them if you don't have a lot. And then add the sound of Ujjayi to your breath, that little narrowing in the back of your throat, if that's your practice, so that you can hear your breath, which should become audible. But even more specifically than that, use the sound and the length that creating that sound causes to allow you to move a little bit slower through the practice. So you can build strength. So momentum, unfortunately, never builds strength, but going really slowly does. So use your breath as a tool to help you go a little slower. And now hug your knees into your chest. All right. And then keep your right leg hugged in. Stretch your left leg out on the floor. Flex your left ankle and straighten the knee, and then shift your hips a little to the right and drop your knee to the left. Reach your right arm out to the side. And then once you're into this twist, just paying attention to your right shoulder and your right knee. So either point might come away from the floor. And if that happens, that means in some of the standing poses, you won't necessarily be able to turn your chest all the way open, but that's all right. So you're just going to go as far as you can, maintaining some sense of stability in one part of your body, whether it be the hips or the shoulders. Right, now come up and switch legs. So hug your left knee in, stretch your right leg forward, shift your hips to the left, activate your right leg, flex the ankle, and then drop your knee over to the side and reach your left arm out. And turn your gaze over your left arm. And then again, as you pull your left knee across and drag your left shoulder down, one point might hit, one might not, both might, neither might. But you're just paying attention to how far your spine twists in this relaxed state. And then we're going to add a little muscle work so that you can twist a little further as well. All right, now come back up and hug your knees into your chest. So if you have lower back problems or issues and it's a little bit tweaky, you're going to stack your knees over top of your hips and parallel your shins with the floor. If not, stretch your legs straight up to the ceiling. Either way, have your legs all the way together, and then reach your arms out to the side like a T. Okay, palms down is a little bit easier, palms up is a little harder. And then allow your legs to come away from your head enough that your lower back and the back of your pelvis hit flat onto the mat. And then squeeze your legs together and press the heads of your shoulders and the length of your arms down into the mat. Take an inhale, and then as you exhale, start to take your legs to the left and aim your feet a little closer to your hand than towards the front of your mat. And pause about a third of the way down. You've gone so far. Good. Right? And then once you're there, press the entire right arm, right shoulder head down into the mat. Think about your right hip reaching up and over a little further so your feet stay parallel if they are not now parallel. And then hold those two things. Anchor of your shoulders, parallel in the feet, and consider taking your legs a little bit further with every exhale you take. They might not go any further. This might be it. That's all right. And the very last breath, think navel, wrap it to the right as you stretch your legs up and over to the left a little bit more. And then draw your belly down, and on an inhale, bring your legs back up. Good. Pause and take an exhale. Inhale again, reach through your feet, and then exhale, take your legs a third of the way over to the right. Once you're about a third of the way over, pause, wrap your left shoulder head, your whole left arm down, anchor your upper body to the mat, specifically your shoulder heads, and then reach up through your left foot so your feet parallel one another. And then with every breath, start to take the legs any amount lower, the left hip up and over any amount more, without letting your anchors change. And then the last breath you're here, navel, think just wrap it to the left a little bit, but then take your legs up and over to the right. And then inhale, bring them back up. Hug your knees into your chest. And rock yourself all the way up to seated. And come into Sukhasana. So cross legs, just cross your shins in front of one another and flex your ankles. Right? And then flip your palms forward, interlace your fingers, stretch your arms away from you. And then once they're there, just pay attention to your spine. Balance the back of your head over the back of your pelvis. Feel the sides of your waist draw in to evenly lift your rib cage up. And then hold on to that, and on an inhale, start to take your arms up alongside your ears. But pause if your spine changes shape. So they might not end up all the way back by your ears. That's all right. Right? And then press your outer arms firmly in towards the midline. Press up through the palms of your hands. Take an inhale here. And then as you exhale, start to revolve yourself to the right. Wrap your left ribs to the front of the mat, right ribs towards the back. Right? And then once you've twisted, your neck's going to want to do a lot more of the twisting than your upper back. So look directly ahead over your sternum with your gaze. Twist from your upper body. And now hold on to that and bring your left hand to your right knee and your right hand behind you. Encourage yourself to keep the core work across your belly, but press your hand into your knee and twist yourself a little further. And when you can't go anymore, then look over your right shoulder with your gaze. Keep anchoring both sit bones, and then sides of the waist hug in. The twist starts at the base of your rib cage and then all the way up through the crown of your head. Okay, now come back to center, put the other leg in front. You have to be even. And then flip your palms with the other finger on top and stretch your arms forward. And then again, right up on top of your sit bones, back of your head over the back of your hips. And then once you have that, sideways in, sit up taller. Then on an inhale, begin to bring your arms up without letting yourself round your back or overarch the lower back. Squeeze the arms in, press your palms up so you get a little bit taller. Take another inhale, and then exhale, start to twist yourself to the left. And as you start to do that, the head just wants to do all the work. Your neck wants to do the turning. Twist from your upper back. And then once you can't twist from there anymore, feel the right ribs wrap to the left. Bring your right hand to your left knee, left hand behind you. Hold the work across your belly, but then press your hand and your knee to twist. And then look over your left shoulder with your gaze. And then for the last couple of breaths, make sure both sit bones stay anchored. The left hip wants to creep back. Press it forward, sit up tall, and revolve. Good. Okay, come back to center and come back into downward facing dog. Back. You haven't even been there yet. Come into downward facing dog. I was in downward facing dog a second ago. All right, once you're in down dog, if you want to take a moment just to pedal your feet back and forth, bending one knee and straightening the other leg to work into your hamstrings or your calves, go ahead. If you prefer holding still, that's always fine too. I like to hold still sometimes. Good. And then put a nice generous bend into both knees. Come up high onto your toes. Press your palms firmly into the mat. Hold that as a priority, even weight in your hands, and then wrap your outer arms down to the floor to broaden the base of your neck and move your shoulder blades wide. And then once you have that, hug your outer arms in, and now hold all of that, and think about taking your upper back right between your shoulder blades through towards your inner thighs, keeping your arms in line with your ears. And then hold the length you've created in your spine, and start to press your thigh bones back to straighten your knees out. And then pull your heels down. Try to flex your ankles. Your toes might even pick up a little bit if you really encourage that effort. But now inhale, come forward into plank and bring your shoulders over your wrists. One strong straight line. Crown of the head forward, shoulders away from your ears, heels driving back, and then hollow your belly out. Try to concave that up towards the ceiling. Right? Then shift your shoulders slightly beyond your wrists. Take an inhale there, and then exhale, bend your elbows and lower yourself halfway into chaturanga. Arm bones no further back than alongside your rib cage. Take another inhale, and then exhale, lower yourself all the way down. Uncurl your toes, interlace your fingers behind your back, and then press your toes down and back into the mat so your knees are straight. Press the front of your hips into the mat, and on an inhale, lift your shoulders, your chest, your head all up off of the floor. And then once you're up, keep reaching the toes back, hugging the thighs, the outer shins together, hip points grounding. Work from the upper back to lift your chest a little more. And then have your neck feel like an extension of your upper back between your shoulder blades. So just look slightly up. And then maybe arms up off of your back. Palms can press together if they'll go together. And then exhale, lower yourself all the way down. And bring your hands right underneath your elbows, so back by your waist. Press your hands down, keep your knees straight, and on an inhale, straighten your arms all the way into upward facing dog, pulling your chest forward slightly and then lifting your sternum up to your chin once your arms are straight. That same thing, toes reach away from you, tailbone reaches away from you, and then chest reaches up towards your chin. Good. And then exhale, roll up and over your toes and into downward facing dog. And then once you're in downward facing dog, widen your feet out to the edges of your mat slightly. And then bring them a drop closer to your hands, about 3 or 4 inches closer. And then press your hands down. Keep wrapping your right tricep down, and with your left hand, grab your right ankle. And then once you have hold of it, look at your hips, and if they've shifted to the right, hug your right thigh back in so you're square. And then start to wrap your left ribs under your right, so the right ribs start to wrap up. But as you do that, counter that with wrapping your right tricep down towards the floor, the outer arm to the floor, so you maintain a down dog arm. Good. And then put your left hand back down, and with your right hand, grab the outer edge of your left ankle. Okay? You can always look at your hips to make sure they've stayed square. Hug your outer legs together, hold that, wrap your right ribs under your left, but keep wrapping your left tricep down to the floor. Good. And then bring your right hand down and step back into regular downward facing dog. Good. And then inhale, shift yourself forward into plank pose. Bring your shoulders over your wrists. Shift slightly further forward. Exhale, halfway down into chaturanga. Push yourself, inhale, straight back up into plank. Exhale, pull back into downward facing dog. They've forgotten about me. I've been gone for a little while. Right. Inhale, come forward into plank. Do that again. Shift forward, exhale, chaturanga. Inhale into plank pose. Exhale into down dog, and do it one more time unless you don't need it, and you can always drop your knees and do it that way if it's too much in your shoulders or if you lose alignment in any way. Good. And then walk your hands all the way back until they meet your feet. Put a generous bend into your knees so that the sides of your rib cage touch your inner thighs, and then just grab your elbows and hang yourself forward. Okay. Even though your knees are bent, balance the weight evenly in your feet from your heels all the way up through the balls of your feet. And then hug your legs together, outer shins, outer thighs, tops of your hips. Hold that and start to slowly straighten your legs out any amount, keeping the sides of your rib cage touching your inner thighs. And then bring your hands down. Inhale, pull your chest forward, arch between your shoulder blades, straighten your legs out all the way. Exhale, bring your hands to your hips and zip your lower belly in. Inhale, bring yourself up to standing. And then step to the front of your mat. And bring your feet together. Join your hands together in front of your heart. Inhale, reach your arms up alongside your ears. Keep your elbows straight and bring your hands as close together as they'll go without bending your elbows. And then exhale, fold at your hips, sternum forward, hinge at your hips, long spine. Inhale, look forward, pull your chest wide and your shoulders back, and then exhale, plant your palms, step into plank, keep your shoulders beyond your wrists as you step back, and then exhale into chaturanga, bend your elbows. All right, here you go, flip your toes. Inhale, upward facing dog, just like you wanted to. And then exhale, roll up and over your toes, straight knees, pull back from your hip crease into downward facing dog. Good. So keep activating your legs as much as you work from your arms so that you're always balancing the pose evenly from your hands to your feet. And then look forward, lift your heels, bend your knees, and bring your feet between your hands. All the way together with the feet. Inhale, arch your upper back and look up. Exhale, fold forward from your hips. Inhale, come up to standing, reach your arms up. And exhale, join your hands together. Again, inhale, reach your arms up overhead. Exhale, Uttanasana, fold forward and down. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana, chest wide. This time, exhale, step or hop if you're going to hop into Chaturanga, bending your elbows in the air and landing with them bent. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, press the floor down, shift back, downward facing dog. Oh, yes. One more. Look forward, bend your knees, step or hop. Inhale, thighs back, chest wide. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come up to standing. And exhale, Samastitihi. Join your hands together. Good. One more time. Inhale, arms up. And then exhale, fold forward. Inhale, chest wide and look up. Exhale, through a vinyasa to down dog. So take your time, go slowly on your breath like we talked about at the beginning. Trying to use very little momentum and really long inhales and exhales. Good. And then look forward at your hands. Bend your knees, bring your feet up to meet your hands. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold forward. Heel toe your feet to hip distance apart. Okay, heels behind your second toe, and then bend your knees, drop your hips, and reach your arms up in chair pose, but like you were a ski jumper instead of a yogi for a second. Okay, shift the weight back just like you would in chair. Send your knees directly ahead, the same direction as your toes. Pull your sternum away from the crease of your hips. And then fold at your hips and bring your left arm to your inner left ankle and reach your right arm up and twist to the right. Okay? So have the back of your left arm touch your inner knee. Press those 2 points together. And then the right hip wants to jut out like Janice's is doing. Hug your right hip crease in and back. Hug your sit bones together for stability. Pull your sternum forward and then roll your right ribs over your left from the part of your spine that's between your rib cage. Good. And then look down. Plant your left fingertips down. Step your left leg back to a high lunge. Good. And then once you're there, you can either stay up on your fingertips or you can plant your left hand all the way down. But firm your back leg straight. And then lift your hips up just a drop higher away from the floor than you think. And then hold on to that. Make sure your right knee is still facing dead ahead. And then twist from your upper back again. Now turn your top palm from your shoulder joint to face the front of your mat and reach the top arm up and over alongside your ear. Good. And then smooth breath. Good. And then take your top arm up, bring that hand down to the mat, step back into plank pose and take a vinyasa to downward facing dog. You can always skip them and go right into down dog from any plank that we get into if you don't need to do the push-up and the back bend. Good. Right. Look forward, see your hands, bend your knees, step or hop. Inhale, Ardha. Exhale, fold forward. Heel toe your feet to hip distance apart again. And then bend your knees, sink your hips back, and inhale, reach your arms up. And once you get into chair, keep breathing, send the weight back, hug your thighs together, keeping your knees facing straight ahead, and then fold forward and bring your right arm to the inner right shin or the inner right knee, whichever makes sense to you, and then turn open to the left and reach your left arm up. And then left hip crease, hug it in and back so you stay square in the hips, and then hug your thighs together, not letting them buckle in. You're just that effort of squeezing the inner thighs. And then back of the arm, inner knee, you can press them together to turn your chest open. Good. And then look down, stabilize yourself, plant your right fingertips down, pick your right foot up, keep your left hip hugged in, and send the right leg back to a high lunge. And you might need to adjust once you get there so your stance is correct. And then press the back thigh bone up and lift your pelvis just a drop higher away from the floor. When you let it sag, it's very hard to keep it square. And then left knee, face it straight ahead, and you can look at it to make sure it's doing that. And then turn your top palm from the shoulder and reach your top arm over. And then your whole lower body, it stays stable. What's happening in your left shoulder, your right shoulder, that stays the same. You use the muscles across your belly and into your upper back to twist there. And then take your top arm up, plant your left hand down, and step back into plank pose in vinyasa or down dog. And then look forward at your hands again. Bend your knees, step or hop your feet up. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold forward. Bend your knees, drop your hips. Inhale, arms up into chair pose. And then exhale, push up and stand and bring your hands together in front of your heart. Inhale, bend your knees, sit back, chair pose. Exhale, fold forward, and then straighten your legs out. Inhale, pull your chest wide, look forward. And then exhale, take a vinyasa all the way through to downward facing dog. Good. And then inhale, come forward into plank. Bring your shoulders over your wrists. Pick your right foot up off of the mat. Keep your shoulders and upper body square. And as you exhale, bring your right knee across towards your left shoulder or outer left arm. Keep the right thigh or left thigh bone pressing straight up so you've stayed with plank in the back leg. Your knee might not come anywhere near the other arm, but don't worry. Okay, keep the shoulders square. Now draw your knee to your nose, push the floor down, and then bring your right foot between your hands. And inhale, bring yourself all the way up into crescent pose. Reach your arms up overhead. And then once you're there, Give your back knee enough of a bend that you feel like you can access your lower belly and pick your hip points up off of your right thigh bone. It should feel like you've just lengthened your lower back. Now you're going to hold on to that and start to press your back leg straighter and straighter and straighter. And then roll your outer arms forward. When you can't wrap your outer arms forward anymore, then reach them up like your fingertips started all the way just above your hip points. Now, like you would do up dog, work your upper back so that your chest lifts, so your gaze can start to move up, and it might go all the way up to your hands. Then last thing, if you can bring your hands closer, bring them closer. Maybe they'll touch, but keep your arms straight. Good. And then bring your left hand down, just like you were doing before, and reach your right arm up and twist again. And this time, plant your left hand all the way down on the floor. Have the wrist parallel to the front of the mat. Turn your chest open, reach your right arm up, look down, and then step your right foot on top of your left into side plank. And you can always modify, take the top foot across, drop your bottom knee, but flex your ankles, steer your right hip over top of your left, then right ribs over top of your left, and reach your arms wide apart. Good, and then come into plank pose from here. And reverse your vinyasa. So keep your legs and arms straight, drop your hips, uncurl your toes, and inhale into up dog right away. Widen across your chest, and then start to pull your belly in. Keep your knees straight. Exhale, bend your elbows and flip your toes into chaturanga. Inhale, push up into plank pose, and exhale, press back into downward facing dog. Take an inhale through your nose, and then let it go out your mouth. All right, side two. Come forward into plank. Inhale. Pick your left foot up. Exhale, pull the knee across to your right arm. Okay. Your left shoulder, it just likes to kind of go with you when you start to initiate this. Press your left shoulder back so you're square. A little more. There you go. And then push your inner right thigh up so the heel's still stacking. Twist from your belly and your upper back. And then bring your knee to your nose. Press the floor down, round it, try to get the knee all the way to your forehead, and then step your foot through. Inhale, come on up into crescent pose, feet hip distance apart. And then once you're up, bend your back knee generously. Draw your lower abdomen just from kind of the tip of your tailbone up towards your navel. Hold that and start to press your back leg straighter. Then wrap your outer arms forward so that you know your shoulders are in the right position, and then reach up through your fingertips. High, high, high. Start to work into your upper back. Chest will lift, but your lower back stays in the same shape. Maybe look up, and then bring your arms as close as they'll come with straight elbows. And then twist it again. Right arm down, left arm up. You're only here for a second, so plant your right palm down. Check out your wrist, make sure it's parallel. Stack your shoulders, and then step back. Left foot on top of right into side plank. Good. And then flex your feet. Draw your belly in. And then it's this little opposition. Left hip always needs to go a little further towards the side of the mat, and then left ribs wrap away towards the mat behind your head so that you're in one line. Then reach your arms apart, feel your collarbones broaden out as well as your shoulder blades. And then come into plank pose, and again, reverse the vinyasa. So drop your hips, uncurl your toes, straight elbows and knees into up dog. And then recurl your toes, exhale, draw the belly in, bend them into chaturanga. Inhale, push down to come up into plank, and then exhale, pull back into downward facing dog. Good. All right. And then look forward and see your hands. Bend your knees and step or hop your feet up. Inhale, stretch your chest forward. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, bend your knees, sit back into chair pose. And then exhale, push up and stand and bring your hands together. All right. Surya Namaskar be held a little bit. So inhale, bend your knees, sit back. Exhale, fold, and then straighten your legs. Inhale, chest wide, look up. Exhale, take a vinyasa through to downward facing dog. And once you're in down dog, step your right foot all the way through to your hands. Spin your left heel flat. Line up your heels, and inhale, come up into warrior one. Reach your arms up. And then once you're up, start with your priorities. So first, outer edge of your back foot, seal it to the mat, and straighten your left knee out fully. Hold that. Pick your hip points up like you did in crescent pose, and then hold that. Those two things stay the same. You try to square your hips a little more, and you try to maybe bend your front knee a little bit more, but not at the expense of the first two priorities. And then come above. First, ribs, square them to the front of your mat. Then overwrap your triceps and reach your arms up. Then maybe you can arch your upper back enough to look up. And again, arms come as close together as possible without bending them. Exhale, hands to the mat and take a vinyasa. Those are very nice warrior ones. I like halfway do the poses in my body. I do all this weird stuff, I realize. And I tell my teacher trainees not to do that, and I do it all the time. All right, step your left foot forward, spin your right heel down, heel to heel, inhale, come up, warrior one. Okay, so everyone always thinks, get the big bend in the back, in the front knee and square the hips, but those aren't the priorities. Priorities are back leg, outer edge of the foot glute, knee straight. Hold that. Hip points up so your lower back has some space. Hold that, and then maybe bend a little further into the knee. Square the hips as much as you can without changing anything else. Then ribs, they can definitely square to the front. You know where your twisting muscles are for those. Wrap the outer arms forward. Reach them up, 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 up. Maybe look up, maybe touch. Exhale, hands to your mat, and step back and through a vinyasa again. Good. And then steady breath again, in and out through your nose. You can always take care of yourself and take a break during these B's if you need it. And look forward, bend your knees and step or hop. Inhale, widen and look slightly up. Exhale, fold at your hips. Inhale, bend your knees, sit back, arms up into chair pose. And exhale, press up, stand, bring your hands together, mountain pose. All right, Surya Namaskar, be on the breath this time. Inhale, bend your knees, sit back. Exhale, fold forward, straight legs. Inhale, chest wide. Exhale, chaturanga. Okay. Inhale, upward facing. And then exhale, press back into downward facing. Right foot forward, back heel at an angle. Inhale, one breath up into warrior one. Be precise. And then exhale, hands down, slowly lower, chaturanga. Inhale, widen your chest, upper back, in and up. Exhale, press back, down dog. And then left foot, bring it forward, right heel down. Inhale, one breath to the top. And exhale, hands down, move slowly back through your vinyasa to down dog. And then hold, even breath again. And one more. And look forward, bring your feet to your hands. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, Uttanasana from the crease of your hips. Inhale, sit back, arms up. And exhale, rise, hands together, mountain pose. One more time, inhale, bend your knees and sit. Exhale, fold and then straighten. Inhale, chest wide. Exhale, vinyasa. And once you get into downward facing dog, right side warrior one, take the vinyasa between sides, and then do the left side on your own. Good. Okay, go slowly with your breath, always. And you might be able to keep up with them, you might go slower, you might go a little quicker, but let your breath dictate the poses and how long the transitions take. Good. And then once you get into this downward facing dog, drop your knees down and rest in child's pose. You can bring your arms back beside you, or you can keep them extended out in front of you. All right. So if your arms are beside you, then reach them out in front of you again. And then press yourself back into downward facing dog. And from downward facing dog, walk your hands back to meet your feet. And once they're back there, make a hook with your index finger and middle finger and loop your big toes. Inhale, stretch your chest forward and arch between your shoulder blades. Hug your sit bones together. Oh, you and that bendy lower back. And then if you can't get the full length in your spine, bend your knees a little bit to accommodate. And then exhale, fold from your hips. If your elbows are bent, lift your shoulders away from your ears and draw your elbows to the sides. And then if your legs want to straighten a little bit more, that's fine, but keep the length in your spine. We're kind of going somewhere with that today. Hi, Janice. She's peering at me through her legs. She looks like she's like at the rescue place and she's trying to get me to take her home. Inhale, pull your chest forward. Exhale, walk yourself back out into downward facing dog. Good. All right, and then step your right foot forward between your hands. Inhale, come up into crescent pose, reach your arms alongside your ears. And then once you're all the way up again, this time hands to prayer, lean yourself halfway forward. And once you're halfway forward, firm your back leg all the way straight, take an inhale, and then as you exhale, bring your left elbow to your outer right knee. Just hands in prayer into crescent twist. Nice. Right, and press the back leg up again, hips a little higher away from the floor, right knee straight ahead, and then you can press your arm and your knee together, but allow the knee to stay facing ahead, and then wrap the right ribs open over top of your left. Good. And if you want to part the arms, if your left arm is really close, left shoulder is really close to your knee, and you can bring the hand all the way to the mat and take the top arm up, you're free to do that. But again, that's just a little bit of added flair, so don't let that compromise the rest of the pose. Good. And then bring both hands to the mat, and just a simple vinyasa back into downward facing dog. And then step your left foot forward. Inhale up into crescent pose, all the way up. And then exhale, hands to your heart, lean halfway forward, straighten your back leg out. Take an inhale to widen your collarbones. And then exhale, twist yourself to the left. Okay. Good. So back leg. In order to keep your hips square and to truly be twisting your upper back or your thoracic spine, you have to keep the back leg straight, the hips lifting a little bit higher away from the floor than you think, and then the left knee stays facing straight ahead. Then you twist. And you really have to put your mind in the portion of your body that you want to twist, or in the parts that you have to hold still, and keep it there so you know that you're not just twisting from your hip joint or from your knee joint. And then if you're parting your arms, go ahead. Good. And then bring your hands down to the mat and just take vinyasa right back into downward facing dog again. Nice. Good. And then look forward at your hands, bend your knees, step or hop your feet up in between them. Inhale, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, bend your knees, drop your hips, and reach your arms up into chair pose. And then exhale, bring your hands to your heart, lean forward, and hook your left elbow to your right knee again, twist. So we've already done the bigger wide version of this, so now the narrow one. So keep your hips square, and you'll know if that's happening if your shins are parallel with one another. You're so bendy in your lower back. Good. Right, and then hug your sit bones together. Arch from your upper back and twist from that section as well. And then again, if you can part your arms apart, go ahead. Good. And then square off. Reach your arms up. Inhale into chair pose. And then right away the other side. Hands to your heart. Exhale, right elbow, left knee. Good. So you have to do a little sweating, a little twisting in order to erase all of the weekend's activities. Good. Right, and then part your arms. Nice. There we go. Good. You're right in front of me, so I had to fix everything today. And then square off, inhale, chair pose, reach your arms up. And exhale, push up to stand and bring your hands to your heart. Right, step wide to face the side of your mat. Have your feet parallel with one another and nice and wide apart. Bring your hands to your hips. Inhale, lift your chest up, widen your collarbones. Exhale, fold forward halfway and put your hands right underneath your shoulders. And then collarbones wide. Hug your thighs together, the outer shins together. Lift up through the inner leg. Hold all of that, twist to the right. Reach your right arm up to the ceiling. And you can move your left hand off to the midline a little bit. And then if it feels like your right foot got really heavy, or your left hip feels like it's shifted a little, it probably has. So hug the right hip crease back towards the left. This way, come with me. There you go, good. Reach your arms wide apart, and then pay attention to the back of your right shoulder. If it feels really congested, you're probably twisting from the shoulder, so take your top arm a little closer to the front of your mat. Twist from your upper back rather than your shoulder, even if your arms don't stack. And then lower your right arm down. Bring your hands to your hips, and with a flat back, inhale, come on up to standing. Pivot your right foot to face the front of your mat. Pick up your back foot, move it forward just about a foot or so, and line up your heels. Okay, if you use a block for twisted triangle, or if you think you might need one, you can set it up to your inner or outer right shin. Okay, and then reach your left arm up, keep your right hand on your hip. Okay, get everything square here first, hips, chest, and if that's difficult, turn your back toes in a little bit more to accommodate. Take an inhale and then exhale, fold halfway down. Once you're halfway, this is your moment to kind of check what's going on. So keep the hips square, and you can look down for a second if you need to make sure that's happened. And then re-extend your spine forward and squeeze your thighs together, anchoring both feet. Then put your left hand down where you're going to let it lie today, and it can be inner or outer, but try not to change any alignment to get it one place. Now start to initiate the twist. Roll the right ribs up. And then reach your right arm straight out of your shoulder. And again, if it feels congested in the back of your right shoulder, it's probably because you're twisting from that part of the body instead of from your upper back. Ooh, these are good. All right, and then it's going to happen. So you're already all set up into the alignment. Feel it in your body, pay attention to it, hold it, just look down with your head. Bend your right knee, move your hand out underneath your shoulder, lift your back leg up into twisted half moon. Right away, flex the raised ankle and straighten the knee like it was still in twisted triangle. Draw your belly in for some support and hug your thighs together like you were doing in twisted triangle. And then initiate the twist from your upper back. And you have a little more space here, so you might be able to get the chest open a little further than you did in the last pose. Good. And then bring your right hand down, lower your left foot down to meet your right, hands to your hips, and inhale, come on up to standing. All right, so step wide to face the other side of your mat this time. Okay, feet parallel with one another, hands on your hips, lift up through your thighs and your chest, and then exhale, fold forward halfway and place your hands under your shoulders. And balance evenly in your feet, hug your legs together, and lift up through the inner thighs like you were trying to lift a beach ball away from the floor. And then start to twist to the left this time. You move your right hand to the midline a little. Good. Okay. And then it's kind of, they keep doing it, putting their hands on their lower backs, but that's not often easy to even tell if that's working. So every time you go into a twist, if before you twist, you look at your hips and then put your attention in your thoracic spine or your upper back, and twist from there without letting anything change, you'll be pretty sure they're square. And they are. They look good. Good. And then again, pay attention to the back of your left shoulder. If it's congested, if it just feels like there's a little pinching there, you're probably twisting from there. Take the hand a little closer to the front of your mat. And then bring your hand down, and then both hands to your hips. Pull your belly in and inhale up to standing. Then pivot your left foot forward, pick up the back foot, turn the toes in some, line up heel to heel. And you can turn your back toes in enough so that it's easy to square. And then anchor the back foot. Think about how much effort you're going to have to put into it when you lift it into twisted half moon. And inhale, lift your chest up and reach your right arm up. Exhale, fold halfway forward, sending the crease of your hips back, your chest forward. If you want to look down and make sure your hips are still square, that's fine. Make sure the back leg still has that anchor. And then put your right hand down. If you round it at all, re-extend your chest to the front of the mat. And then mind in the upper back. I will not move my hips. I'm going to twist from my upper back and turn your chest open, reaching the left arm up. Ah, good. Little tiny bit of lower belly here, mostly working across your obliques and into your upper back. And then that stability of the hugging the legs together and drawing in and up on them. And then look down with just your head. Bend your left knee, keep the hips squeezed in, move your hand forward. As the back leg leaves, draw the belly in more, and then reach through your back heel. Knee straight, thighs hugging. Come into the upper back, twist from there. What you doing with this leg, sister? Bring it to the midline. Midline. There you go. Good. That's the best half moon I've ever seen you do, Janice. And then bring your left hand down, right foot to meet your left, hands to your hips, and inhale, come on up to standing. Nice. All right, join your hands together. Last couple things. Inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, widen and look forward. And exhale, either vinyasa or you can always step back into down dog again. Okay, so we're gonna approach an arm balance, but there's steps, so stay with the portion of this that works for you today. Don't worry about getting to the full thing. It's not totally necessary. So you're gonna shorten your stance up a little bit like we did at the beginning, bringing your feet slightly closer to your hands. Not a huge amount, just a couple of inches. So Crystal, you went too far. Move your feet back a little bit. Move this to like right here. There we go. Okay, good. All right, now leave this. You're gonna wanna lengthen back out as I tell you to do this, but leave the short stance. Inhale, bring your shoulders forward over your wrists like you were going to plank pose, but it'll be a little shorter. You're still a little too short. Move your feet back a little more. There we go. Now pick your right foot up. As you exhale, bring your right knee across towards your left arm. Okay? And then you can round your back a little and get the knee to hit the tricep. Now look forward, shift your shoulders beyond your wrists, and start to bend your elbows, hugging them in like you would for chaturanga. Okay? If the back leg gets a little light, then start to lift it up from the inner thigh, but elbows bent no more than 90 degrees, and then maybe straighten your right leg out, just like you were doing twisted triangle with chaturanga arms. Good. And then you can either pull this back in and step back, or if you know how to jump it back, you can always do that. Okay? And then end up back in downward facing dog. So you never have to let the back leg leave the floor. All you have to do is just bring the knee across, go towards chaturanga. One day it will happen. A little shorter, it just makes it so much easier to get your knee across. Okay, inhale, come forward, shoulders over your wrists, align that portion, and then pick your left foot up, drag the knee across. You can let your belly pull in and your lower back round some. Get the knee to touch the outer arm. Once it touches, look forward, shift your shoulders forward, bend your elbows, press the floor away from you, and then float the back leg up from the inner thigh, and maybe straighten your left leg out. Ooh, see, that happens all the time too. Then if you know how to take it out of this vinyasa, do. Otherwise, step back into down dog and take one final vinyasa if you'd like one, or you can just hold here for a couple of breaths. Good. And that's the end of the twisting portion of things in the standing poses. All right, so let's do some back bends. So look forward and then hop all the way through and lie down. And then once you're down on your back, we'll start with bridge pose. So twists are good little prep for some back bends. So we'll go a little further than sometimes we do, but bend your knees and start with bridge. So feet hip distance, arms alongside of you, and then heels about an inch closer to the front of your mat than your knees are. And then hug your thighs together just so they stay parallel. And on an inhale, from your outer hips, lift them away from the floor. Press your feet down. And once your hips are up, wiggle your shoulders underneath your body and interlace your fingers. Press your feet evenly down. Feel your thighs hug together in effort, but keeping them parallel, just so your knees are stacked over your ankles. Draw your tailbone under your body towards the backs of your knees so you have that same length you create in crescent pose in your lower back. And then work into your upper back to create more of a back bend. Outer upper shoulder, if you really think about pressing that down, it'll work into your upper back more. And separate your arms and lower yourself all the way down. All right, so once you're down, if you're gonna stay with bridge pose, which is perfectly fine, you can stay with bridge pose the entire time, and you'll do 2 more of them for 5 breaths in each one. If you're gonna go on to Urdhva Dhanurasana, if that's your practice, stay with me and we'll set it up. So either hips up for bridge pose and interlace your fingers, or bend your elbows and bring your hands alongside your ears. And then turn your fingertips out towards the sides of the mat a little bit so it makes it easier to draw your elbows in, facing them to the ceiling. Hips up the same way you would for bridge. So inhale, lift your hips first, press your chest through towards your chin, and then inhale to the crown of your head and pause there. Once you're on the crown of your head, draw your elbows in line with your shoulders, keep your head down, lift your shoulders up, keep your head down, shift your chest back, and then inhale, straighten your arms and lift yourself up. So if your toes turned out, then turn your heels back out again and do that same thing. Hug the thighs together so they're parallel, draw them in and down, and then tailbone to the backs of your knees, outer arms to the back of your mat, and into the upper back you work for the back bend. And now even on the way down, duck your chin, hug your elbows in and bend them and come down and land on your upper back first and then lower down. And then just pause and we'll do 1 more. So you can either backtrack if you did that and you want to go back to bridge pose, or you do 1 more Urdhva Dhanurasana. And so when you're ready, you set it up again. Hands by your ears, come up slowly. So it's best to come up slowly and get this into the right portion of your spine than it is to just pop up. And it might make it a little bit more difficult, more strength, but if you go with that, over time, you'll protect your lower back, and you'll open your shoulders and your upper back, which will allow you to do some of those arm balancy, handstand, scorpion type things that you're looking to do probably. Good. And then when you're done with about 5 breaths, maybe 8, duck your chin, lower down, keep hugging your outer arms in as you come down, and then place your feet mat distance apart, knock your knees together, and you can just put your hands on your belly. And if it feels like you're arching your lower back a lot here, you can always pick your hips up and spread your back wide on the mat and set yourself down. You can close your eyes. So it was a lot of work, a lot of twisting, a little detoxing. So in these last poses, you can be softer and always making the attempt to hold still through these, to get yourself into a position where your body feels like it's doing some work, but it's still. And then from that, putting your mind on something that's moving, but something that you can hold your mind still on, which will be your breath. Your breath will always move. That part doesn't stop. But you're trying to stop your mind from spinning onto everything else that it likes to spin onto. So your breath is something that will keep moving, and you hold your body still too. And let's backtrack to the beginning. So same twist we did at the beginning. Hug your right knee in, extend your left leg out onto the mat. Shift your hips a little to the right, drop your knee to the left, and reach your right arm out to the side. So like we did at the beginning, now after all of these twists, just pay attention to whether your knee and your shoulder hit, or maybe they've changed, maybe they're closer to the floor. Then let gravity just do this. No need to work. And come back up and do the other side. You can always let your eyes close. Sometimes I find if I close my eyes that it's easier to pay attention to my breath. Sometimes it's harder, so you can always hold your gaze or your drishti on something in the room. It's just easy. You just fuzz your eyes out a little bit, just make them a little blurry. And then come back up and hug both knees in. Rock yourself all the way up to seated. And then stretch your legs out in front of you to Dandasana. So legs can be together, they can be hip distance, hands next to your hips. Press your heels, your thigh bones, your sit bones down, and then inhale, reach your arms up overhead, lift the side waist up, hinge at your hip crease, and exhale, fold forward. And once you're folded, grab what you're going to grab. If you need a strap, you can wrap it around your feet. And then sit bones anchored, inhale, re-lengthen your chest forward, and then exhale, fold from your hips, keeping your legs and sit bones anchored down. And your neck can relax. And it doesn't matter if you fold forward all the way like this. You can be sitting really tall and upright. You can still relax your neck, still close your eyes, and then get still and pay attention to your breathing. And then inhale, sit yourself all the way up. And lie down onto your back. And then once you're on your back, bend your knees and put your feet on the floor and cross your right thigh all the way over your left so your inner thighs are touching. And then hug that into your chest to start with. Flex your ankles. And if this is already stretching your hips, you can just stay here. It's perfectly fine. Otherwise, with your ankles flexed, grab the edges of your feet. Keeping your inner thighs touching, you can take your feet out to the sides of your mat and then pull them down towards your shoulders. But if you've let your inner thighs leave each other, or if you're torquing at your ankle joint to do this, it's not worth doing that. You'll end up just stretching your knees and your ankles rather than your hips. Just go back to hugging your knees in. And then change legs. So feet back on the floor, cross the other leg over, hug it in. Flex your ankles, and if you're going on, go on. Feet